for more on this, Tom Packer is a fellow at the University of Oxford's Rothermere American Institute. He joins me now live from London. Tom, good to have you here with us on TRT World. This is in many ways the United States versus Donald Trump. And whatever comes out of this case is going to have far-reaching consequences for the wider political spectrum of the country, would it not?
Likely. I think it might make less difference than one might think, not least because the case is likely, there's a decent chance will go on for a while, in which case he might either get pardoned or the case might get dropped if the Republicans win the election, or even the Democrats might find some political reason to pardon him. There have been pardons in similar circumstances before. But it's certainly quite an important case. And unlike the case that got announced a few weeks ago in Manhattan, this case is on much stronger legal ground. It's not like Donald Trump doesn't have some defenses, particularly on the legal side. I think less so on the factual side. But his legal position is a lot weaker on this. The indictment is very powerful and sounds like they have pretty overwhelming evidence.
But Tom, the fact that is perhaps the most unusual aspect of this case is that the defendant could become the next president of the United States. So what would happen in that case?
Indeed. So I think what would happen in simple legal terms is under current precedent, the case would just get suspended. So I think it's generally agreed, particularly by the executive, so the people in the branch in charge of prosecuting, but you can't indict an existing president. So the case would be Trump would presumably try and pardon himself if he won the election. It's not. No president's ever done that. It's not clear if they could pardon themselves. So that would presumably go to court at some subsequent point. But it is a sort of real element of this. And I think the question is, has American politics changed in a way where people are willing to prosecute presidents for stuff they historically wouldn't have? Or is it just Donald Trump breaks the rules in a way no previous president would have done? And I think the truth is there's a bit of both. There's elements to that. Donald Trump really does push the envelope in a way very few presidents do. And the taboos on prosecuting your political opponents have also weakened a lot in American politics over the last few years.
Now, Tom, many Donald Trump supporters, and in fact, Donald Trump himself, call this a witch hunt. They call this politically motivated. Is this perhaps one of the reasons why President Biden has chose to remain silent?
I definitely think they want to make it look as little like a witch hunt as possible. So distancing the president himself from it is an obvious thing to do, which is what they're doing. In terms of the validity, I think the truth is that he's been prosecuted by a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. And like most such cases, some of them have elements of being a witch hunt. So the Bragg prosecution a few weeks ago. This, I think, has less so, because on the one hand, people breaching these rules is quite common. So Joe Biden did that as vice president. Mike Pence did that as vice president. And neither of them are being prosecuted. But what they did is when they got a letter saying, we think you have these documents, they then went and found the documents and handed them over. Well, at least based on the indictment, and I suspect the indictment is telling the truth on this. If it's not, we'll find that out soon. Donald Trump then tried to get his lawyers to claim that they weren't there, tried to claim it himself, and basically refused to cooperate. And in the end, they had to send in the FBI to get the documents out. So he didn't just walk off with the documents. He also then tried to keep them. And some of his defenses that the president could just decide who has any documents are a lot weaker from that, because by that point, Joe Biden was president. So he's the one who decides which documents people are allowed to walk off with and which ones should be stayed.
All right, Tom Packer, thank you very much for talking to us here on TRT World. Really appreciate your taking out the time.